Hey travelers, today I want to talk to you about culture shock. When Caleb and I created this YouTube channel, we wanted to share with you our travels and our adventures, but we also wanted to share with you our normal everyday life here in Japan. And today I want to talk to you about something that has affected us both and will most likely affect you if you decide to travel somewhere or even move to a new country, and that is culture shock. If you don't know what culture shock is, or you've never experienced it for yourself, it's basically a feeling of disorientation or uncomfortability when you're put into a new culture, a new way of life, and a new set of attitudes around you. And like most emotional things, there are different stages of culture shock. The first stage of culture shock is the honeymoon stage, and this is when everything is wonderful, everything around you is the best thing you've ever seen, ever experienced, ever eaten. Everything is better than home, and you're just really excited to be in this new country or new place. Another stage of culture shock is the frustration stage. This is when homesickness sets in. This is when people tend to withdraw from the people around them, or even withdraw from the actual culture that they're living in. The third stage of culture shock is the adjustment stage. And this is when people become more familiar with the culture that they're living in. They become more open to experiences and other people. They're willing to try new things and just adjust to life in this new country. The fourth and final overall stage of culture shock is the acceptance stage. And this is the stage when homesickness kind of goes away and the place where you're living becomes your home. It feels like home, you've made connections, you've kind of accepted the flaws of the culture that you're living in, and you're willing to just push through and even adopt some of the ways of life that people have around you. Now that I've talked a little bit about what culture shock is, I want to talk about my own personal experience with culture shock. I would be lying if I told you that every single day of my time here in Japan has been wonderful and that I've enjoyed each and every one of them, because that's just not true. There have definitely been days when I have felt the effects of culture shock full force, and it is not always pleasant. When we first came to Japan, I was definitely in the honeymoon stage, and this is not always the case for everyone. I mean, someone might step off the plane and immediately feel homesick, but for me, I was just so overwhelmed with happiness and gratitude that we had finally reached this goal that we had been planning for so long. Like, we were finally living overseas on our own. I remember going out to lunch with the team, and then we went shopping for a little bit, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. We get to walk everywhere. We get to walk everywhere. At this point, everything seemed wonderful. But of course, over time, the frustration stage did set in. So that's kind of what I'm going to be focusing on today. Of course, I'm not going to go into every moment or thing that has caused me to feel frustration, but if you want to hear more, just let me know in the comments below. One thing that has caused me major culture shock is just the indirectness that you encounter. As you probably know, Japanese people are very, very polite. It's part of their culture, it's who they are, and that brings about a lot of indirectness. Sometimes this can be a positive thing because they're not rude, but it can also be a negative thing, like in the workplace. I remember one particular instance when I was taken to the doctor, and when I came back, I completely forgot to say thank you to my boss for allowing one of my Japanese coworkers to take off time and bring me to the doctor. I didn't find out that my boss was upset about this, that I hadn't said thank you to her, until about a week and a half later, when my team leader called a meeting and a memo had been issued. Please say thank you when you are taken to the doctor. It wasn't directed at me, it was directed at the entire group of teachers, but it was definitely about me. I felt really, really bad about this, and I remember crying afterwards, and I just felt like I had made such a horrible cultural faux pas. Indirectness is definitely something that I don't think that I will ever get used to here. Something else that has caused me culture shock that you might not expect is the constant politeness. Like I said before with indirectness, Japanese people are very, very polite. There are set phrases that you have to say when you do certain things and at certain times of the day, and sometimes it just gets overwhelming trying to remember exactly what to say, how to say it, and sometimes it doesn't really feel genuine. It just feels like phrases that people are saying because it's just what they always say. So those are just a few things that have caused me culture shock, but what does it look like when I am being affected by it? A lot of times I feel really tired or sad, but mostly I just want to avoid Japanese culture altogether, which sometimes it's a good thing to get away and do things that remind me of home, but a lot of times it just is a negative thing. So for a good chunk of time last year and even into this year of teaching, I kind of avoided studying Japanese. One thing that I'm kind of embarrassed to admit is that I cannot read Japanese. If there's no English, then I need to use the Google Translate app or rely on someone else to translate for me. I definitely regret this because I feel like if I had just pushed through and gotten over the frustration that I was feeling, you know, because of things that I really can't change about the culture, then my experience here, even though it's been mostly positive, it would have been 10 times better. Even though I feel like I've failed so many times and given in to my emotions when I'm dealing with culture shock, I feel like I've found a lot of healthy ways to deal with it as well. Some of these things are just finding ways to stay active and keep a routine going, because I think that's really, really helpful when you are in a new place and, you know, your whole life is kind of turned upside down. I definitely notice a change in my emotions when I'm eating healthy, when I'm taking care of myself, when I'm drinking lots of water. I'm kind of laughing to myself as I'm saying all of this because I feel like the past few months I've kind of slipped back into old bad habits, but I've noticed a change in myself and my emotions when I find ways to take care of myself and stay healthy and happy. I'm gonna wrap the video up here. If you have any other questions about culture shock, or if you just need some support because you're going through it right now, leave me a comment below. But if you liked this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe because we put out new videos every Tuesday and Friday. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.